I don't think I've laughed this hard at a Cheers episode in quite a few episodes, and that's quite a bold statement because I tend to laugh a lot at Cheers. Hot Rocks is just perfect. I had to take a couple of minutes after watching this before I could do this discussion because there are a lot of amazing moments. This is the 17th episode of the 7th season of Cheers. It is, of course, directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the events of the episode and share some thoughts. And it's a fantastic episode. It starts off, actually, the intro is brilliant. In fact, I might have more notes about this intro than I have for most intros, but I also hate it because it starts off with Norm cracking his fingers, which I really cannot stand. And Woody had the same reaction that I did. And Cliff says that it's a tiny finger-sized sonic boom. And Frasier said, well, Cliff, you're partly right. And Cliff was really excited because he's never right. And Frasier gives this explanation, and then Norm makes a popping sound with his cheek, and they get onto the topic of whistling, and Carla can whistle with her 2 fingers. So she's going to demonstrate it, but first she has to crack her knuckles. I really didn't need that the second time. I was not prepared. And Woody responds, synovial fluid imploding. I hate that sound. Which I loved because it's funny, but also because it's true. Really solid cold open. Rebecca then comes out, and oh my goodness, the dress is absolutely stunning. I'd love to know where all of the costumes are for Cheers now. I've seen 1 or 2 pop up on auction sites long after the auctions have ended. I had no hope of getting them, but I'd love to know where the costumes are now. Sometimes there are specific costumes. Most of Diane's wardrobe, I'd love to know where that is. That dress, I want to know where it is. It's absolutely gorgeous. Turns out she has a date with a doctor. And Sam then comes in dressed very smartly. He's also going to the same event. They're going to this USS Constitution black tie event. And Rebecca then puts on her earrings. And Norm gets really excited about Carla's banana earrings. And this is something that I don't think gets anywhere near enough attention. I don't know if it's every episode, but certainly most episodes, Carla has on a really fun pair of earrings. And there's never any attention drawn to them, but I absolutely love them. I don't mention them enough. Maybe I should make more of an effort. I'd love to know where they are as well. I wouldn't wear them, largely because I don't like the idea of wearing somebody else's earrings, but I'd love to know where they are as well. And the little banana earrings are adorable. Sam and Rebecca are then arguing about who has the better date, and Rebecca obviously thinks she wins because her date is a doctor, a cardiologist, and Sam says, my date's so good looking that when the 2 of us walk down the street, people actually look at her. Which I love, and Sam is admitting that somebody else is more good looking than he is, which is a big statement for Sam. And unfortunately, Rebecca's date phones and he has to cancel. And she says he had an emergency bypass, to which Sam replied, yeah, he had to bypass you. I feel mean for laughing because I love Rebecca, but it was funny. It was a good joke. And then Woody told Sam that his date had called, he'd forgotten to pass the message, and his date has to cancel as well. And she's sick of Sam. So that's not my joke. That's the joke in the episode. And I rather enjoyed that. And Sam says to Rebecca, which I thought was a good suggestion, we're both dressed up. Why don't we just go together? To which Rebecca responds, I'd rather remove my own gallbladder with an oyster fork than go out with you, which is a beautifully written, very well delivered line. And then immediately after, Sam comes back into the bar with Admiral William J. Crowe Jr., and that meant nothing to me, but I did some Googling, I did some research. Apparently the name means something. He's played by himself, of course, and the reason he came back with Sam is because they were at the event and he recognised Sam Mayday Malone, and Cliff talks with him. Cliff's conversation was rather beautifully written and very well delivered by Ratzenberger, very, very funny, and Rebecca then asks if she can do anything for him, and he suggests she goes out with Sam. And then Carla talks with him, and then Frasier comes in, and Frasier didn't recognise him. And I was kind of keen to see what would happen with Frasier because he approaches him. And I kind of thought, what's Frasier going to say? I couldn't remember from the last time I saw this episode. And Frasier gives him his card. and tells him that he can help him. Frasier doesn't believe that he is the Admiral. He thinks he is somebody who thinks he is the Admiral, which is really awkward, but definitely very funny as well. And then everybody's wearing hats and talking with the Admiral, and it's a really nice scene. Everybody's happy. And then Rebecca says that she's really lucky because somebody of importance came into the bar and she was already dressed very smartly. It's unusual for Rebecca to say that she's feeling lucky, but never fear, we're not breaking from tradition, because almost immediately after, she goes into the office and realizes her earrings are missing. Her diamond earrings are gone, and the only other person who went in the office was the Admiral, because he went in to use the phone. And obviously she assumes that he stole the earrings. And people are talking about this. Why would he steal the earrings? Cliff's not happy with the way people are talking about the Admiral. And Norm suggests that maybe the Admiral wears the earrings. He wanted the earrings. And Cliff says, yeah, right, he wears earrings and I wear women's lingerie. To which Woody responds, Carla, you were right. It was funny. But then Norm's face as well. I believe that was a genuine laugh from George Wendt. Not for the first time either. I feel like Norm laughs at a lot of things that Cliff says or things that are said to Cliff. And I feel like a lot of it is very genuine. And then Carla is explaining about how she can create sparks with a lifesaver. Frasier kind of spoils it by going into the background information about why a lifesaver might spark. And Woody says to Frasier, makes sense. And then he turns back to the group, and I love this. He said, I find that when you say that to Dr. Crane, he stops talking, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. And then Rebecca and Sam are in the office. We find out that these are $32,000 diamond earrings. Rebecca had kind of borrowed them to see if she liked them, and they were holding her, I think, her credit card or her car. Basically, if she didn't return these, she would have to pay for them, and she'd lose everything, basically. And they can't find them, and she said that she will do anything to get them back. And Sam looks at her. She makes a kind of nervous noise, and Sam looks at her, and she says, yes, Sam, I am exactly that desperate. So now, of course, it's Sam's personal mission to find these earrings so that Rebecca will sleep with him. It's never even explained that that's what's happening in any great detail. It's just very clear that that's what's going on. We then cut to Woody, Norm, Cliff, and Carla under a coat, seeing the sparks that Carla is creating with the lifesaver. Sam asks them for help, and they all go back into the office. Cliff is going to pretend to be the Admiral to recreate the crime. And Rebecca is talking through what happened, and she mentions that he picked up a glass, and Sam picks up the glass. Water goes everywhere, and Rebecca points out that her earrings were in another glass, and Sam rushes out to the bar, comes back in with the earrings, and Rebecca says, how can I ever thank you? To which Sam responds, I think the how has already been established. We're up to the where and how often. And Rebecca responds very, very sullenly, well, a promise is a promise. And Sam gets really annoyed and says, I hate it when you do that, because I love the fact that that line really helps to reinforce how frequent this has become, but not in a way that it's annoying or overdone. It's just a frequent occurrence with Sam and Rebecca now, where she keeps having to promise him sex, and every time it comes around, she makes it very clear that she's not going to enjoy this. And because it's seen as a chore, Sam doesn't want to go through with it, which in itself, I guess, is definitely very admirable. And they talk about why they think of each other in this way, and she explains that she categorizes men in three categories, and as soon as she met Sam, she categorized him as a no. And that when Sam Malone walks into a room, she says no and gets on with her life. And she asks him why he keeps coming on to her. And honestly, I feel like it's very obvious for Sam. Sam's explanation wasn't that detailed. He basically just said he categorizes women in one category, as in, yes, he will sleep with them. But I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think Sam keeps going after Rebecca because he sees her as a bit of a challenge. I don't think he's actually attracted to her beyond her appearance. I don't think if she were to say, look, Sam, I'm actually in love with you, can we have a long-lasting, stable relationship? I don't think he'd suddenly start jumping for joy. I think he's physically attracted to her, but I think the biggest thing is that she says no. And he sees it as a personal challenge. And maybe that's just my reading of it. Sam doesn't seem to think that that's the case, but I personally think that that is why Sam is so desperate to accomplish this. And Sam suggests they start all over again. And they maybe have their first introductions again. They try and remove all of the thoughts they have about each other and just go back to day one. And Rebecca says, okay, let's do this. And Sam makes her compliment his hair, which is ironic. And he's not believing her. He doesn't believe she's sincere. So she says to him, I will dispel the myth that you turn my stomach. I will give you a little kiss. And they have a teeny tiny kiss. And Rebecca goes back in for more, which I think was very interesting because she was leading that situation. And they kiss, and it's really lovely. Although I was very confused because on the one hand, I want nobody to kiss Sam except Diane. I don't want anybody to be with Sam except Diane. But at the same time, I really, really, really love Rebecca. And if for whatever reason Rebecca realised she was in love with Sam, I wouldn't want anything to get in the way of that, except maybe Diane. So I'm very confused with how I feel about this. If it was anybody else, I'd be really irritated, but it's Rebecca, so it's not too bad. And Sam leaves after the kiss, and Rebecca says to nobody, definite maybe. And of course, Sam hears and comes back in and calls out to the bar that Rebecca thinks he's a maybe. And Rebecca, of course, tries to get out of this. And the last thing she says, the last thing anybody says is, I said that I think you gave me rabies. Just Rebecca's desperate attempts to try and get out of what she said. I absolutely love it. I thought this was a truly fantastic, very funny, visually gorgeous episode. Rebecca's dress was just absolutely the star of the show, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know if I have personal highlights because honestly I feel like the entire episode was a highlight. Okay, I will try and name some. Well, I guess Woody saying synovial fluid imploding, I hate that sound. Slightly concerned that I'm now going to say that whenever somebody cracks their fingers or their knuckles. And Rebecca coming out in the dress, just absolutely stunning. And as much as I hate it, I loved it when Sam said, yeah, he had to bypass you. Horrible, don't insult Rebecca like that, but also very, very funny. Rebecca's line about removing her gallbladder with the oyster fork, and the way Cliff talked with the Admiral, I thought was pretty entertaining. And Woody saying, Carla, you were right when Cliff announced he wore woman's lingerie. And just the whole scene with Sam and Rebecca, I absolutely loved it. It's a perfect episode. I know most episodes of Cheers are perfect, so that might not be saying much, but honestly, I loved it. Hot Rocks was an absolute delight.